For the latest in strategic affairs, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell icon for updates.
Welcome to StratNews Global. I'm Surya Gangadharan. On the day of ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, both sides will exchange prisoners and hostages, and it'll last for 5 days. After that, presumably, they'll get back to bashing each other. On this day, we also have a curious dilemma for India. Israel has designated the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which, as you're aware, is a Pakistan-based terrorist organization, and that is as a terrorist entity. So it is listed by the Israeli government formally as a terrorist group, and will be accorded all the sanctions and other actions that governments do to proscribed organizations. The question which Israel has is, when will India designate Hamas as a terrorist group? Although it appears to be widely acknowledged in India that Hamas is a terror group, for some reason it has not been formally designated as such. And I have with me Mr. Ramanathan Kumar, former Special Secretary of R&AW. Sir, welcome.
Thank you very much, Surya. It's always a pleasure to be with you on StratNews Global.
So the fact that we acknowledge that Hamas is a terrorist group, but we don't designate it officially, is that is the current situation?
Well, I would begin by saying that the formal listing of terrorist organizations, Surya, is an intensely political process. And, unfortunately, in the world of realpolitik, the old adage that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter still holds good or holds sway in some form or the other. Remember also the difficulties that India has experienced in its quest for putting together a comprehensive, treaty on terrorism, a global terrorism treaty. But the question of defining terrorism has always been an intensely political one. So it is deeply ironic, in fact, that the United Nations Security Council has still not designated Hamas as a terrorist organization because of all the political pulls and pressures. Now, in India, the formal listing process takes place under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, the UAPA. Right now, there are some 45 odd organizations listed there as terrorist organizations and proscribed. Now, if I broadly sort of categorize those organizations, they would fall into the jihadi, the categories of the jihadi groups, the Khalistani groups, the insurgent organizations from the Northeast, the extreme left-wing organizations such as the Maoists, and of course you have the Islamic State also, which is listed there, which is also of course listed as a terrorist organization by the United Nations Security Council. Now, under the UAPA, there is also a provision that, organizations which are listed by the United Nations Security Council, they ipso facto get listed by us, designated as terrorist organizations by virtue of the United Nations Security Council Act and the United Nations Prevention and Suppression of Terrorism Order, which has been passed under the United Nations Security Council Act. So it would have been much easier for us to, proscribe Hamas if the UN Security Council itself had, designated it as a terrorist organization. that still hasn't happened. So, as you rightly said, there is a somewhat of a fine line that we have to walk, diplomatically speaking.
Mhm. Is the Lashkar-e-Toiba listed by the UN as a terrorist
Yes,
entity?
Lashkar-e-Toiba is listed as a terrorist organization. So is the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and so are various individuals. But you would recall the difficulties that we have faced because of purely political reasons when some countries like China have, repeatedly stonewalled our efforts to list certain individuals such as, say, Maulana Masood Azhar as a terrorist. This is what I meant when I said that the listing process is an intensely political one.
So, in that sense, it does give India a kind of fig leaf to tell the Israelis that let the UN do it first and then we'll follow.
That is right. I mean, this has been. I guess that this has been a consideration for us because remember that all countries, by and large, designate groups as terrorist organizations only when their interests are directly affected, or if the organizations concerned act on their territory or territories within their jurisdiction. So, if you look carefully at the list of all the organizations that we have listed under the UAPA, all these are organizations which, have perpetrated terrorist activities on our soil. The same goes for Israel and for all other countries. We can still, I mean, as a special case, perhaps consider listing Hamas as a terrorist organization. I'm sure the government would be carefully mulling the pros and cons. But if you list one organization, then you would be under pressure to list many other organizations. So if the UN itself were to list the Hamas as a terrorist organization, our job certainly becomes much easier.
Has Hamas been involved in any terror-related offenses in India?
To the best of my knowledge, not directly in India, Surya. But it is a fact that, there's a great deal of ideological, affinity, for instance, between organizations like the Lashkar-e-Toiba and the Hamas. In the past, representatives of Hamas have attended the annual congregations that the Markaz Dawah ul Arshad, one of the alter egos of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, they used to have annual congregations in Murid Ke near Lahore, and many fraternal organizations used to send representatives to attend these gatherings, and Hamas was one of them. Also, in the distant past, Hamas and Lashkar actually used to share a web page with each other. This was a very long time ago, back even before, September 2001. So all these organizations, feed off each other. They are inspired by each other. An attack conducted by one emboldens other organizations which are operating in different parts of the world. So I'm sure that the successes of the Lashkar-e-Toiba embolden Hamas and vice versa. But that having been said, I'm not aware of, say, specific acts of, say, fundraising or recruitment by Hamas, say, in India. Unlike, say, the Islamic State, which has done so and which is, listed as a terrorist organization under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act.
Are you aware of Hamas leadership ever attacking India, criticizing India, expressing support for the activities of perhaps the Lashkar terrorists in Kashmir and other places?
No direct statements have been issued, to the best of my knowledge, specifically directed against India, Surya. But for instance, the International Islamic Front for Jihad against the Jews and Crusaders, which was formed by Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri, for instance, way back in 1998. There were organizations, both from the Middle East and from our region, which were signatories to that fatwa. So that is what I meant when I said that, when I referred to the ideological linkages between these organizations and the common goals that they have. That said, as I am not aware of any specific statements directed against India or activities directed against India by Hamas.
So what happens if India, say, designates Hamas as a terrorist organization, puts it on the list of terror groups? What happens after that?
I think the real issue is, it becomes easier for the law enforcement agencies of India to take action against, say, any hypothetical or potential fundraising or, recruitment or propaganda activities carried out by Hamas in India. That having been said, I would say, Surya, that even without a specific listing, it is not impossible for our agencies to act against specific terrorist activities conducted by Hamas or Al-Qaeda or any other organization for that matter. If any such specific activities were to be detected, there are enough and more legal provisions to take action against whoever is involved. And that really brings me to the nub of the issue. I think above all, these listing exercises have a demonstrative or a symbolic value. They are expressions of solidarity, so to speak, among the countries concerned, which are all which bear the common brunt of terrorism. So I think it is that important, it is that symbolic aspect, the aspect of solidarity, which is as important as anything else as far as the listing exercise is concerned.
Mm-hmm. I presume India and Israel do share intelligence and information on terror groups. Would you say the Israelis have a special insight into these groups that India is concerned with?
So what really happens in all these cases is that, other than the United States, which really has, global interests, all countries tend to have the maximum amount of expertise or devote the maximum amount of attention to problems that directly affect them. And therefore, for India, it is the terrorist organizations that are active in the South Asian region, which really, they occupy the bulk of our attention. Similarly, for Israel, it is the organizations active in West Asia, which directly pose a threat to Israeli interests, and be it, Hamas or Hezbollah or the Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or organizations of their ilk, which, operate primarily in the West Asian region, Israel's expertise is greatest as far as those organizations are concerned. But then, this is a common area of interest, and therefore, the concerned agencies always, share whatever information that might be available at their disposal, which may, help the other party. This is, of course, this is the manner in which friendly intelligence organizations always cooperate with each other on matters of common interest.
And would Hezbollah be in the same kind of scale as Hamas in terms of how we view it? Hezbollah and the Palestinian Jihad you talked of?
Yes, that is right, Surya. I mean, all these organizations actually, be it Lashkar-e-Toiba or Hamas or Hezbollah, they operate on multiple fronts. There is and there is supposedly a division between the military or the terrorist wings and the political fronts. Although if you look carefully, if you scratch under the surface, the leadership is the same. There are inextricable links between the two fronts. So that is the case with Hamas. That is the case with Lashkar-e-Toiba. That is the case with Jaish-e-Mohammed, and that is the case with Hezbollah also. Irrespective of whatever political, charitable, socio-economic activities they conduct, the terrorist organization is what gives them or forms their core and is what gives them the muscle. And there is a great deal of similarity in the modus operandi pursued by all these organizations.
So last question. Given your background, what's the kind of advice that would emanate from an intelligence agency to its government, to the political authority in a situation like this?
Well, I think intelligence agencies are trained above all to be as objective and as dispassionate as possible while arriving at their analysis and judgments, Surya. And I think all intelligence organizations are supposed to give their most objective and clinical assessments to the governments that they serve. And then, of course, the ball then enters the larger court of policy making. Now, for instance, in this particular situation, the Israel-Hamas war and the situation developing after the October 7 terrorist attack, our government, for instance, if you read the statements of the MEA and the External Affairs Minister, we've clearly made a distinction between three fundamental aspects here. There is the terrorism situation, there is the humanitarian situation, and there is the political situation. The future of the Palestinian people and the political resolution of the Palestinian issue, and our own, long-standing support for the two-state solution, which has been supported by many other countries. Now, all these three are distinct issues, and they should not be conflated with each other. So, all that I can say is from an intelligence point of view, from a purely technical point of view, any organization that engages in the deliberate targeting of civilians is a terrorist organization. And to that extent, there is absolutely no dispute about the fact that Hamas, ticks all the boxes the relevant boxes as far as the definition of terrorism is concerned.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ramanathan Kumar, a lot of insight there. Thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's all we have for you now on StratNews Global. Do continue following us for more of these quick takes on developing new situations. Thank you very much. Goodbye.